Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Voice of Diary. Today we're going to listen a very interesting story. Take your headphones and let's start the story. I'm a 29-year-old male, the kind of guy who believes consistency matters more than charm. I work a regular corporate job, pay my bills on time, call my parents every Sunday, and until recently, believe that commitment was a mutual understanding, not a negotiation. The story really begins on a Tuesday night. Ordinary. Takeout containers on the kitchen counter, TV playing something neither of us was watching. My partner sat across from me, scrolling on her phone, smiling at something that clearly wasn't me. I said, half joking, "You've been really busy lately." She didn't look up. Busy is good. That sentence stuck. Not because it was wrong, but because it was practiced, like she'd rehearsed it for other conversations. We'd been together for 4 years, lived together for 2, shared rent, a dog, routines. I was loyal in the boring ways, showing up, planning ahead, turning down attention because I already had someone. She called herself independent. I respected that. I never checked her phone, never questioned late nights, never asked who she was texting. Independence, I thought, meant self-sufficiency. I didn't realize it could also mean emotional outsourcing. The first crack showed up disguised as honesty. One night she said, "I don't like feeling tied down." I nodded. "We're not married." She shrugged. "Still, I like knowing I have options." Options. Plural. I laughed a little, assuming she meant career paths, travel, life. She didn't laugh back. That's when the room shifted. Over the next few weeks, small things stacked up. She guarded her phone like it contained state secrets. Password changed. Notifications silenced. She started framing basic relationship expectations as control. "You're being insecure," she said once, when I asked why she hadn't come home the night before. "I told you I crashed at a friend's." "Which friend?" "Why does it matter?" It mattered because trust doesn't survive vagueness. But every time I pushed, she reframed it. I was limiting her. I was old-fashioned. I was holding her back from being her own person. Meanwhile, I was paying most of the rent, covering emergencies, supporting her career moves. Loyalty, apparently, was my contribution. Flexibility was hers. The escalation was subtle but deliberate. She started picking fights before going out. Manufactured tension. Emotional smoke screens. If I reacted calmly, she accused me of not caring. If I reacted emotionally, she labeled me unstable. Either way, she left angry and returned distant. One night, after an argument that started over nothing, she said, "I need space." Space meant 3 days of silence. On the 4th day, I found the email. I wasn't snooping. I was paying bills. Our laptop auto-logged into her email. A message preview sat there, unashamed. "Can't wait till he's out of the picture." I stared at it longer than I should have. I opened it. It wasn't graphic. It was worse. Casual. Strategic. Conversations about timelines. About how I was safe but not exciting. About how she needed to keep me stable until she was sure about the other option. Option. Singular now. The sender wasn't a stranger. It was someone from her workplace. Someone I'd met. Someone who had sat on our couch, accepted drinks I paid for, laughed at my jokes. I closed the laptop slowly. When she came home that night, I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I asked one question. "Are you keeping me as a backup?" She froze. Just for a second. Long enough. Then she sighed, like I was exhausting. "Why are you making it sound so dramatic?" That was the moment I understood the dynamic. In her mind, loyalty was a service I provided. Commitment was something she'd decide on later, once all variables were tested. I told her I knew. She didn't deny it. She reframed it. "I didn't cheat," she said. "I was just exploring connections. I deserve to know what's out there. If you were more confident, this wouldn't bother you." Entitlement wears the mask of empowerment really well. I said I was done. She laughed. Actually laughed. "You'll calm down." I didn't. The next day, I spoke to a lawyer. Not for revenge. For clarity. We weren't married, but our finances were intertwined. Joint lease. Shared accounts for household expenses. In the U.S., disentangling that requires precision, not emotion. I documented everything. Emails, messages, financial contributions. I followed legal advice exactly. No confrontations, no threats, just preparation. She noticed a shift immediately. "Why are you being so cold?" she asked. "I thought you said you loved me." "I did," I said. Past tense. That's when the dirty tricks started. She tried guilt first, brought up memories, trips, inside jokes, then panic. "What if I end up alone?" Then anger. "You're ruining my life." She told mutual friends I was controlling, that I was emotionally unavailable, that I'd blindsided her. A few believed her. Some didn't. I didn't defend myself publicly. Truth doesn't need a campaign. When that didn't work, she tried negotiation. "Let's take a break, not end it. Let's keep things the same until I figure things out." Figure things out. Translation: keep paying, keep waiting, keep being reliable while she decided who she wanted more. I said no. That's when she crossed into entitlement without disguise. She emptied the joint account. Only the portion she'd contributed, legally, but timed it to hit right before rent was due, trying to force a conversation. I had already moved my funds. The rent was paid. Her leverage evaporated. She tried to keep the apartment. I had the lease history, proof of payments, and legal backing. The property manager followed the contract. She had 30 days to move. She threatened to make things messy. I stayed quiet. The final move was the boldest. She tried to file a false complaint at work, claiming I was harassing her to intimidate her into staying. That could have ruined me. But timelines matter. Evidence matters. Her messages contradicted her claim. HR closed the case within weeks. She was warned. The other guy? Turns out company policy didn't like workplace affairs that involved deception and false statements. Consequences followed. I didn't celebrate. I just watched accountability arrive on time. When she realized the safety net was gone, she showed up at my door crying. No speeches. No justifications. Just fear. "I didn't think you'd actually walk away," she said. That was the truest thing she ever admitted. I told her this was the cost of treating loyalty like a placeholder. I packed the last of my things that night. Revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's precise, documented, and irreversible. The story doesn't end with me winning. It ends with me choosing not to lose myself to someone who wanted freedom without responsibility. Loyalty isn't rare. Commitment is. By the third day after I told her it was over, the apartment didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a negotiation table where one side had already flipped the board and the other was still pretending the game was ongoing. She started acting like nothing had changed. She cooked dinner, left my plate out, asked if I wanted extra sauce. That kind of normalcy isn't kindness. It's denial with confidence. I ignored it. Silence makes entitled people uncomfortable because it removes their ability to steer the narrative. When I stopped reacting, she escalated. "You're really doing this?" she said one morning, blocking the doorway as I grabbed my jacket. Doing what? Throwing everything away instead of talking it through like an adult. I looked at her then. Really looked. The calm tone, the tilted head, the way she framed my boundary as immaturity. "We talked," I said. "You just didn't think I'd act on it." That was the first time her confidence cracked. She started monitoring my movements, asking where I was going, who I was talking to. Suddenly transparency mattered. Suddenly loyalty was sacred. The irony wasn't lost on me. That evening, I got a message from one of our mutual friends, someone I trusted. "She's telling people you're kicking her out with no notice." That wasn't true. Not legally. Not morally. I sent screenshots, lease documents, payment records, dates, facts. I didn't add commentary. I let the evidence speak. That friend apologized. Others slowly went quiet. That's the thing about entitlement. It relies heavily on the assumption that no one will check. At home, the atmosphere turned colder. She stopped pretending. The charm dropped. She began acting like the apartment was hers by default. Left her things spread out deliberately. Played music loudly while I was on work calls. Small acts designed to provoke. One night, she stood in the kitchen and said, if you leave, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. I didn't respond. Threats lose power when they're met with indifference. Behind the scenes, I was still methodical. Lawyer calls, email follow-ups, everything documented. I followed advice closely because emotional decisions are expensive in legal settings. She, on the other hand, started improvising. First, she tried to rush reconciliation. Told me she'd cut off the other guy, that she'd realized her mistake, that I was the stable one. Stable. The word landed wrong. Why did you keep him around? I asked. She hesitated. Because I didn't want to end up alone. There it was. Not love. Insurance. I told her no again. That's when she shifted tactics completely. She began playing the victim publicly while privately pushing buttons. Told people she was scared of me. Meanwhile, she went through my things when I wasn't home. I knew because items moved. Drawers slightly open. A folder missing. I confronted her. Don't accuse me of things you can't prove, she said, arms crossed. I don't need to accuse, I replied. I just need to protect myself. That same night, I installed a small camera in my room. Legal. Disclosed. Another precaution my lawyer recommended given the circumstances. She noticed it immediately. So now you're spying on me? She snapped. No, I said calmly. I'm documenting. Her face hardened. She understood what that meant. 2 days later, she tried a more aggressive move. She contacted my employer. Not directly accusing me. Not yet. She framed it as concern. Claimed I was emotionally unstable after the breakup and that she was worried about my behavior affecting my work. It was calculated, plausibly deniable. But again, timelines matter. I had already informed HR preemptively about the breakup and potential retaliation, provided context, provided documentation. So when her message arrived, it didn't land the way she hoped. HR scheduled a meeting. I walked in with records, not emotions. They listened, asked questions, cross-checked. The conversation lasted less than an hour. I walked out employed. She walked into scrutiny. When she found out the complaint hadn't worked, she lost control. You embarrassed me, she yelled that night. You tried to sabotage my career, I replied. You forced my hand. No, you overplayed it. She accused me of being calculating, of planning revenge, of turning cold. I didn't correct her. Let her believe whatever helped her sleep. The other guy disappeared around this time. I didn't ask why, but I later learned he distanced himself once things became public and inconvenient. Options tend to vanish when they come with consequences. She noticed. Suddenly, she wasn't empowered. She was cornered. That's when entitlement turns desperate. She tried to delay moving out, claimed she needed more time, asked for extensions that weren't in the agreement, tried to guilt me by crying in shared spaces, sat on the couch, staring at nothing, hoping I'd feel something. I felt clarity. The move-out date arrived. She hadn't packed. The property manager came by. Documents were signed. Procedures followed. She was given notice. No drama. No yelling. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her. You really went through with it, she said. Yes. She left that evening with bags, not closure. But she wasn't done. A week later, I received a letter from an attorney. Her attorney, alleging emotional distress, claiming I'd created a hostile living environment. My lawyer smiled when he read it. They're fishing, he said, and they have no bait. We responded. Firm, factual, cited dates, cited actions, cited her attempted complaint, her financial maneuvering, her access to the apartment after notice. The letter never got a follow-up. That's when I realized something important. She never expected resistance. She expected compliance. Every move she made assumed I'd fold. When I didn't, her entire strategy collapsed. The revenge wasn't explosive. It was procedural, structured, boring on the surface. But it worked. By the time she understood the full weight of her actions, there was nothing left to negotiate. And I still wasn't finished. This is just the beginning of the story. Stay tuned for the next part. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, and share the video with your known ones. You are listening the voice of diary.